I'm thrilled today to be hosting such a wonderful panel with individuals that bring very unique perspectives to what we're about to talk about, which is product launch. And quite frankly, successfully bringing new products to market, it's essential to the sustained growth of organizations, especially SaaS companies, where finicky licensed customers can churn switch easier than before. So a successful launch, it sets the foundation for a product to achieve success in the marketplace. And it requires optimal execution both internally and externally. Yet Gartner, OpenView, and most industry research firms state that product launches fail to meet customer and business objectives over 60% of the time. This is a catastrophic waste of funds, time, and effort. For me, at least, product launch team, it's like an orchestra, and it requires a conductor, aka the product marketing leader, to keep all these teams in sync to effectively launch a new product. So today, we brought together a few folks who have had countless launches amongst them, and each represents a unique perspective on product launch best practices. We have the CEO perspective with Jason Smith from Clue. We have a CMO perspective with Maya Grossman from Canvas. And we have a product marketing and enablement leaders perspective, Kristen Long from Seismic. Let's start with you, Kristen. If you want to introduce yourself, then Maya and Jason, that will be wonderful.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Kristen Long here at Seismic. I lead the marketing programs group, which encompasses launch readiness as well as new product introduction under the product marketing arm at Seismic.
Thanks, Kristen.
Awesome.
Maya?
Yeah, I'm Maya Grossman. I'm the VP of Marketing at Canvas, a diversity recruiting platform. And I've been in marketing for probably 15 years now and pretty much have seen it all.
Thanks,
Jason.
Maya. Okay. Yeah, Jason Smith. I'm the CEO of Clue, which is a competitive enablement platform, a SaaS company. I'm a 5-time entrepreneur. I've seen and done a whole bunch of things from the marketing side, the services side, the product side. Didn't code. Maybe that's the one gap I have in my resume, which I really wish I could have done. And lots of launches in my career. Tons of failures, a few successes. And hopefully we'll get into some of those concrete examples a little later.
Well, I've known Jason for quite some time now and proud to say I'm a good friend of his, and he's being very humble. He's had many more successes than failures, I can tell you that. So let's get to it. Product launches. Jason, starting with you, CEO's perspective. Why are product launches important?
Yeah, I mean, at worst, a failed product launch is going to kill a company, like definitely a startup. If you screw it up, you're going to fail the entire company and lose a lot of money. But there's a number of pieces, right? Like you're talking about impacting customer acquisition, retention, expansion, leading to revenue. The overlooked part is the brand and the market momentum that you get with a successful launch. And for tech startups, that's going to impact funding. It's going to impact recruiting. It's going to really affect your overall trajectory. You look at Gong launched and Course launched and some of these other companies, and there's a real difference in some of those trajectories. B2B companies, like as a whole, like we're super guilty of spending a ton of money on product and skimping on launch. And what I personally feel like is the launch is every bit as important as the product itself. A poor launch, you're going to have like super confused customers and prospects. They're not going to spend the cycles on anything. They're just going to move on to the next thing. Successful launch, you've got those new and happy customers, revenue, and a product with that market momentum. So yeah, getting that flywheel spinning from launch is critical.
Brilliant. And yet, most companies fail. Maya, you're the connective tissue, if you will, in that revenue engine between product management and then the go-to-market team, sales, customer success, obviously marketing. Why do you think it's so important, but yet why do you think companies fail to get product launch right?
Yeah, honestly, I think you kind of already nailed it before. It has to be a cross-functional operation. You really need to bring all of the different departments, especially if you're working for a smaller startup. You need to bring everyone together and work as one team. And I think what happens really often is the person responsible for the launch would be an IC, maybe someone that doesn't have all the background or even the internal political power to bring everyone together and have that unified approach. And they're very much focused on the doing. So I have a list of assets I need to create, and I just want to put them out there. And we don't spend enough time on the pre-launch process and how do we get everything into the right place? How do we think strategically? How do we budget everything? So many times we have to do last minute things. And from my experience, that could be a recipe for failure.
Love it. And so it's not about just a checklist, as you mentioned. As with anything worthwhile, there needs to be a plan and measurement against it. So, Kristen, in your estimation, who do you believe, A, should author the launch plan? I have my biases. And then B, captain the launch team.
So at Seismic, both of those are under the product marketing group, as I mentioned, under our team. And I believe that's the right group of people to be able to do that due to that cross-functional nature of the product marketing role. We're working with sales, we're working with product, CS, our marketing counterparts. It's really that perfect way to be able to make this occur. And I think that, we're in a unique position working with product to understand what's coming down the line, what are they planning for on a quarterly, annual basis, and how can we take that, identify those top capabilities that we want to highlight, really create a theme around it that then ladders up to our overall organization narrative to create that one message that we're able to go to market with that really is clear on what the value is, and getting all of our go-to-market teams to really rally around that and push it forward. So I think product marketing is in a really awesome spot to be able to do that, and should be. Yeah.
Solidarity, Kristen, solidarity. Jason, unbiased, you're sitting at the top. You have a holistic view of the kingdom, if you will. What's your perspective on that? Is your product marketing leader captaining your product launches?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely product marketing. I'm going to talk about different kind of levels of launches, right? There's, is it a major one? Is it a new offering? Is it a minor one? There's differences there. Our product management team will get more involved, maybe on the minor ones. Product marketing's leading more of the major and the new ones. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that you want to look at, before you launch, like that pre-work that's critical. And as an entrepreneur, I've seen far too many that have gone headstrong into solving a solution, not a problem, and they're not doing the work to deeply understand it. So there's a point we should talk about all the strategic pre-work needed.
Brilliant. And at what point are you and the product marketing leader or someone on the product marketing team, at what point are you getting involved and having them get involved from a launch perspective? Is it when they start building it? Is it when they're making a business case? Or the Friday before when it's built and they want you to launch it next Friday?
Are you talking about when the CEO gets involved and really messes things up? Is that what you're referring to? No, do this, change that, and I want these buzzy metrics. Yeah. Are you looking for the CEO perspective, or what are you thinking?
CEO perspective.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, for me, it depends on the stage of the company. If you're very early, the CEO is heavily involved in the launch plan. As I said, like it's equally as important as building and spending millions on the product itself. As you get bigger into the hundreds or thousands of people, clearly the CEO is going to be a lot less involved in its product marketing leading it. And I've seen that at different stages, right? Early, smaller CEO, product management, then product marketing takes over. With Kristen, the size of a Seismic, it's clearly going to be product marketing. I think, the sub 100 level, it's kind of a mix of product marketing and product management. And, sub 50 level, the CEO is going to be heavily involved.
Brilliant. Kristen, we talked about internal audiences, external audiences, and the product marketing, the launch captain, if you will, has to understand who their audience is. And consider before crafting their launch engagement plan. Can you rattle off some of the audiences that you consider when you're building out your plan?
Yeah, definitely. So number one is going to be customer. We want to make sure every single launch is driving value for our customers. You know, I'm going to be engaging those customer comms teams, the technical docs, make sure they've got everything that they need for the customer to be comfortable and excited about what's coming. Two, we know our customers and potential customers are also looking at the market. So, you know, what is the engaging the marketing team to make sure we're covered on media and analyst reports and thought leadership to make sure that our customers and potential customers can access that. And then finally, our internal teams, obviously, sales engineering, marketing, CS, they're all going to be affected by this. So making sure that we're, as an enablement leader, making sure that we're enabling our teams so that they can answer any question and know exactly the value that this launch is providing in that one message.
Brilliant. And how much in advance are you starting to enable some of the internal stakeholders that you just mentioned?
Yeah, definitely. So we do a pretty regular we do a pretty regular deep dive on technical enablement on a monthly basis. And then for go-to-market, we're enabling our teams the same month that we identify we want to do that launch. We're going to enable our teams that same month, but give them enough time to really digest the information and new messaging coming out in advance.
Brilliant. And Maya, a few months ago, I remember you and I were chatting and we talked about some of your launch strategy. And you had very specific activities pre-launch, during the launch, post-launch. Can you just dive into that a bit, the distinction between each and how important it is to understand the audiences for each of those three phases, pre-launch, launch, and post-launch?
Yeah, of course. I think very often we tend to focus on launch day because it's so exciting and it's the thing that, it goes out and you're starting to see results. But I would actually argue that the pre-launch is probably the most important part of your launch, where you really think about the strategy. You segment your audience. You build those different funnels to really think about the different goals, right? Your customers and your prospects may need a different narrative or a different approach to how they think about this new product. And this is also a time, and this is learn from experience and making a lot of mistakes. This is where you want to get some feedback. It is probably the best way to mitigate risk if you actually talk to some of your customers, if you have an advisory board, even if you share it internally and get feedback from your own stakeholders, instead of just launching in silo and hoping that what you put together actually resonates. So I think that's one of the things that people miss and you really want to do in the pre-launch part. And then you have the launch. And as I mentioned, too often it becomes a launch day and you just expect everything to happen in like one day or 1 week. And from my experience, it's actually better to turn it into almost like a program and spend it across a longer period of time. And the best example I can give you, just a few months ago, we rebranded from Jumpstart to Canvas. And instead of making it just one day in time, for a period of 2 weeks, every single day, we had another part of the announcement, another channel that we used, another format, right? Some of it was video, some of it was text. And you just want to make sure that you hit your customers consistently if you want to educate them. I think we all know people need to see our message at least 7 times before they kind of remember and start associating us with what we're doing. So I would definitely think about that as more of a process rather than just a day in time. And lastly, post-launch, which is the part that most people skip because, oh, it's done. I checked it off my to-do and we can move to the next thing. But this is where you get to learn. This is where you can actually analyze your performance, see what worked, what didn't work. And I think especially for smaller marketing teams like ours, we're still really tiny, you want to make sure that you take all these assets, you spend so much time on that, and you build that into your customer journey, and you put that into your sales enablement. You don't just forget about it and move to the next thing.
Brilliant. Love it. And you're 100% right. It is a process. So there's no launch day, magical day where everything happens. The launch day is actually, I would argue, is the beginning of the launch, and the launch spans weeks, months. And so to think of it as an actual program, a coordinated set of campaigns is absolutely brilliant. So Kristen talked about the types of audiences. There's existing customers, there's prospects, there's various individual people on the revenue team like sales and customer success that you have to enable. Jason, there's types of audiences and there's also types of launches. How does Clue and perhaps even other organizations that you've been a part of, how do you tier launches?
Yeah, let me just I'll answer that in one moment. I just wanted to circle back on just something that Maya said, and you were saying there, like it starts at launch into the program. It starts so much before launch, right? Like I just want to go all the way back to kind of the pre-work that needs to be done, right? There's alignment of the resources that you're going to do internally, whether that's budget or whether that's people or whether that's even campaigns, campaigns that are existing running. Are you going to layer into an existing demand gen campaign or build your own, right? And depending on the launch tier or launch type, that's going to vary. And really, truly understanding that buyer persona, your ICP or your target audience, whatever you want to call it, and that Maya was hitting that, like you want to understand like where they fit in the pecking order in the organization. Do they have a seat at the table? Are they going to fight for budget? What pain do they have themselves? Do they solve it for others? Or are they worried about their own world? Is it just about them or the rest of the company? Career aspirations, ego, even. And even how are you going to find these people? Like, you don't want to hit launch day and not know that. And then we'll talk about success metrics and making sure the org is aligned on that maybe a little later. But just want to talk about those things like pre, because it's so important to line that up. Look, we're a SaaS company. We're about 100 people. We're growing and pumping out features all the time, and mostly they're enhancements. And I think of it as kind of like 3 categories. You could split it way more granular than this, but like, is it new? Is it major? Is it minor? And if it's a new offering or new product, that's a big deal. If it's a major release or enhancement, my kind of a version level, that's a kind of another kind of mid-tier that we'll put effort behind. And then the minor stuff, like I include bug rollouts in that, as well as like minor enhancements. And your goals are going to vary for each of those. But, we don't have a huge formal launch plan for any of the bug fixes or minor features. It's pretty consistent. We don't want to surprise our CS team. We don't want to surprise our clients. So we throw stuff up in Slack. And we provide things like videos, roll-up decks, feature how-tos, that kind of thing, and help docs. And that's kind of the basics on the minor. But if it's going to be a new release, then we're doing a heck of a lot. Like it's a big difference. Like success metrics, like X many visits, X many signups by this date, and getting very concrete about what we're going to do there. So yeah, I broadly, like, we think of it at Clue as like, is it new? And it could be an offering in a product or a service offering or some kind of new initiative. Is it a major upgrade or is it a minor enhancement?
Love it. So that's the foundation of a launch. We're getting alignment to business objectives. We are building out the launch team. You have a launch captain that is going to go and be the conductor, if you will, of this orchestra that you put together. Now comes the buyer-seller engagement, and Maya, I think you're the queen of engagement. I see you all over LinkedIn, and you just know how to resonate with people. We've categorized the type of launch, as Jason just mentioned. Kristen talked about the audiences that we need to engage. How is your marketing team engaging customers, prospects, influencers?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, because I don't think one size fits all. While you're still trying to promote the same product or feature, people are going to be at different places in their journey. And if you have raving fans who are your customers, you may actually want to use them to amplify some of the message. You may want them to be beta testers, but that's not going to be the same for people who are at risk of churning. So you really want to make sure that you're segmenting your audience. And if you're talking to your customers, okay, should I have the same approach with all of them? Can I segment my customers and actually provide them with different messaging and different narrative? Can I get them involved in what we're doing? And honestly, the same goes for prospects. People are going to be in different places in their journey. Someone who just signed up for your newsletter may not resonate with the same message as someone who is very close to actually starting to use your product. And you want to think about that. Maybe early on, it's more about advocating for the problem and just really talking to them about the pain point. And when you're talking to someone who is very close to buying, You want to have more proof points. You want to show them some ROI and just really engage with them in a different way. It's probably not going to be feasible for every launch. It's a lot of work to kind of think about segmenting your audiences to that level. But I think for the bigger launches, or if you have a bigger team, this is definitely something that you want to take into account and just build those different funnels. You're probably going to use a lot of the same assets, but the way that you serve them is going to be a little bit different, and you're going to have different goals for each of these audiences. And I think lastly, with influencers, I know I've made this mistake before. I just, make sure that they're up to date and I send them something last minute, and it's actually a relationship that you want to invest in. And maybe you have a smaller group that, is really close. Maybe you work together with some of the analysts in your industry to actually build that launch if it's big enough and it justifies that investment. But you make sure that you include everyone else in the engagement part. So I think just to sum it up, I don't think one size fits all, and you want to be really cognizant about who you're approaching, what are you trying to gain from that engagement, and whether or not there's a way to personalize it so they absorb the message much better and it really resonates.
Love it. So, Kristen, Maya's talking about a plan to engage prospects, customers, influencers. That's in motion. The plan for that is in motion as we're getting ready to launch. In parallel, can you talk to us? What is best practice for ensuring internal readiness? What are some of the things you're doing to ensure that sales, customer success, support, they're ready to have these conversations that win, if you will?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned these two meetings earlier, but we do a go-to-market enablement session where all of the go-to-market players are going to be involved. Sales, marketing, sales engineering, CS, anyone that's going to need to deliver this message out to customers or potential customers. We'll focus in on the messaging, any new items that might be changing, if there's any new upsell opportunities or pricing changes. We'll ensure that all the teams are aware and comfortable as part of that enablement session. And we always do a survey from that too, to ensure and continue to improve our enablement sessions that we're doing there. In addition to that, we know there's these technical elements that we need to also hit on. So we'll have a session for our solution consultants and sales engineers where we can go to that deeper next level so that we don't flood any questions in that go-to-market session that might be really technical that not everyone needs to know. We'll separate that one out so we can really dive deep into that. And then finally, we use our technology to create a playbook page where all of the launch information is going to live. It's going to be constantly updated, so you've always got the latest and greatest. It's the one location that all of our teams can go to get FAQs, to get any of the content, to get key dates. It'll all be on that one playbook location that everyone knows and expects to go to.
Love it. And so, Jason, Kristen is enabling the sales teams to have conversations that win. And yet most conversations, they're not a winning conversation, because when it comes to competitive dialogue, competitive objection handling, a lot of sales reps just get stumped. And so competitive enablement, it's such a crucial part of product launch, but more often than not, it's an afterthought. So can you share, how should launch captains and organizations be thinking about competitive enablement during the launch process?
Yeah, totally. And it's not like there's not enough to do already on launch. Of course, competitive is going to, be one more thing. Look, I think when you're launching something, it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be something super new and unique, or you're shoring up some kind of competitive gap, and maybe with some kind of differentiated twist. But whatever you do, whatever you launch, your competitors are going to be all over that and react super quickly, right? They don't want their salespeople caught off guard like you don't. So you kind of got to anticipate that. You got to think like a chessboard. You've got to be moving down the play and saying, well, when we launch that, where is the weakness in it, and what are they going to say, so that you can update and build your talk tracks and your playbooks and your battle cards, and enable all of those revenue facing teams with the right things to say and sell and speak to that new release, and articulate why it's unique and differentiated, and maybe preset some of the issues ahead of time, so that when the competitor is picking it up and saying, these are the things that I'm going to beat up, they're already have kind of repositioned around that. I just always think of like, imagine yourself in your competitor's shoes. You've launched something. They're going to be all over your collateral, all over your website, all over your prospects, all over your clients, and trying to figure out what's going on. Is that AI feature really reducing the noise, or does it only work for like certain industries? So you've just got to be all over those talk tracks and be thinking ahead of it and updating your playbooks and your battle cards. And then the other thing I'd say is you want to be really clear about what the boundaries are about what those features can and can't do. Like, are they really better than what your competitor is offering? Or is it more like an MVP feature checkbox, or if it is really better, like how can you explain that and articulate that really well? Like we launched an analyst service, for instance, to our product line, and we're not really in the service world, but we had a bunch of competitors that were doing a lot of services, and our version was pretty light. So we spent a lot of time making sure our salespeople understood the box that feature lived in, so that they'd set realistic expectations. The last thing I'd say is like all this stuff applies in reverse, right? Like when you've got to be tuning into their releases and updating your battle cards and playbooks when they launch something, right? Where our competitor launched a battle card feature a year or two after we did ours, and we knew the depth wasn't there. And how do you deposition that and put that in updating your battle card? You got to do a bunch of research, and then you got to update the assets, and you got to train the team so they have the talk track. So competitor is a huge part of it. It just shouldn't be overlooked, or it's going to affect your win rates.
Love it. We have a couple of minutes left. I'm going to end with a question for all three of you, and we'll go Kristen, Maya, and Jason. In your estimation, what does success look like for a product launch?
Success for a product launch. So for us, it is our teams have successfully participated in the enablement sessions. They've utilized all the materials, and they're going out there and actually using that one message to showcase the value of the launch. And we're tracking all those items through our metrics, through Gong, et cetera. But then also how it's landing in the market and with our customers. Is the product getting adopted? Is media, analysts, are people excited about it and picking it up as well? So we're looking at it from all of those perspectives there, both internally, did we do a great job? And then externally, are people excited about it and picking it up?
Brilliant. Love it. Maya?
Yeah, I would echo everything that Kristen said. I would just say the one place where you may want to think about how you measure success is when the maturity of the market might be a little bit different. So if you're launching into a growing market, for example, like what we're doing, we're in diversity recruiting. That's kind of new. People don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I need a diversity recruiting platform. Not yet, but we're working on it. But if they're looking for a CRM, competition is going to look very different, and they're very much aware of the problem. So success metrics around that might look a little bit different. I would just say take that into account and think about it, per launch. What is actually the one goal that you're really looking to achieve? Depending
on where your company is at in the market.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Love it. So context is important. Jason?
Rowan, I want 5. I want positioning. I want a whole bunch of things. No. Okay. So how do we pick one? Like, look, if I'm sitting in the product marketer shoes right now, I would say be really, really clear on those success metrics and put them in way ahead of your launch. Get collaborative, get buy-in across the board. You want that input from everybody. You want the buy-in from everybody, and you want to post it publicly so that there's no weirdness of an exec like me walking in going, hey, my friends didn't talk about it at dinner. That's weird. Must be a failure, right? Or sales team didn't love it, or some social buzz, some vanity metric that's impacting it. Like, get everybody bought in, get everybody on the same page, get freaking specific, like not 10% lift, 8.3% lift, and then find that Goldilocks level where it's going to be, not too aggressive, not too conservative, something that you can accomplish. It always takes longer than you think. It's always harder to do than you think. So try and find that level and then make it really clear. And if things change, strategy-wise, budget-wise, you've got half your marketing budget, 1 SDR, not 10, change those metrics and make sure everybody's on the same page. So that's what I'd recommend. Success metrics way ahead of launch.
Love it. And if someone's asking me, most people don't ask me for my thoughts, but I'll share it anyway. For me,
Bro, what do you think?
Hey, thanks, Jason. It's very simple. Is that launch helping you do one of three things? Acquire new customers, retain your existing customers, and expand your existing customer base. Those are the three strategic levers that you can drive. And then we talked about some of the operational things that Kristen got into, is the team being enabled, which is so important. Do they have the right collateral? Do they have the right material? What are the conversion rates? So those are the operational metrics, and there's a laundry list of them. But for me, it's the top three, and that's to be measured over time. So listen, Jason, Maya, Kristen, thank you so much for your time. Very, very valuable insights from a CEO perspective, CMO perspective, and the wonderful product marketing perspective. Solidarity, Kristen. Have a good
Love
one,
it.
folks. Take care. Thank you.